Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling. Really appreciate you guys making a little bit of time out of your day to watch the video. And today I'm going to share with you guys the one lure that I've won more money on in my entire career. One bait, and probably won $750,000 at least on it throughout the course of my 45 years of tournament fishing. I'm going to show you guys what it is. I'm going to show you guys, talk a little bit about the situations I look for and why it's produced, so much money for me. Real quick, I just wanted to mention something real quick, guys. I did a video this morning on littering about, some slime bag people that are just throwing trash, down the creeks, and they leave trash in their, campsites and leave trash in fire pits, and then the water comes up and it goes everywhere downstream. I'll tell you how bad some of the trolls I have on this channel are. I had several people basically send me comments defending littering, if that's not completely crazy. So I think surely there are people out there that aren't at that level mentally that defend littering. So I'm just assuming they're just trolling the channel, because I hate to think that somebody actually has that few brain cells to actually defend littering. So I just wanted to bring that up there with you guys real quick. Anyway, guys, let's talk about this. There's been, generally the baits that you win the most money on in tournaments are the ones that produce the better quality fish. So there's a handful of baits that do that. There's, swim baits, larger baits, big crank baits, or certain technique specific things that produce big ones. So I'm going to tell you guys right off the bat, this lure right here that I'm going to show you, color, I'm going to go over the size, setup, has won more money for me anything in my career. $750,000, the 3/8 ounce black and blue tinsel jig with a black trailer on it. This is the Blockit Old School jig. This is the accumulation of all the jigs that I've used throughout my career, and I took the best aspects out of every jig that I had to make the Blockit Old School jig. Also, I'll include the link in the description if you guys want some of these. We've got a great selection there at Baitworks here in Springfield. Link in the description. But anyway, specifically what we're talking about, we're not just talking about a jig. I'm talking about this specific color, this black with the blue tinsel with the solid black chunk on it. Now, the chunk varies a little bit. Throughout the course of my career, we used not to have plastic chunks like this Zoom Super Chunk here. We had pork frogs back in the day. So back before the plastic came out, a lot of times I use a black pork frog on there. And then as plastics, plastic technology evolved throughout the 90s, I mixed it up between pork frogs and the plastic chunks, but invariably it's the same setup. It's a large black chunk on there. The key on this bait, guys, there's a couple of different things on there. It's a combination of the weight and the color. One of the things that you're going to find out about jig fishing is that, jigs produce better quality fish, but there's no jig out there that consistently produces better quality fish than a black with the blue tinsel. Now, sometimes a black with chartreuse will under certain conditions, but black with chartreuse has a little bit more of a tight window when it works. But as far as for the diversity of situations where the big fish will hit a jig, it's the black with the blue tinsel, because you can get bit on this thing. I've caught tournament winning bags and led tournaments in anywhere between 4 inches of visibility and 4 feet of visibility with the black and blue tinsel. It produces in a wide range. But what you have is when you use the black and blue tinsel jig, you cut the amount of strikes that you have back tremendously, but the size goes up significantly. So let's say, for example, if I'm flipping down a stretch of bank and I am flipping like a brush hog or some type of a beaver bait or something like that, and I get 20 bites down a stretch, I may go back through that same stretch with this jig here and get 3 bites, but my best 5 on the creature bait, if they weigh 10 pounds, the best 5 on my jig bite are going to weigh 18 to 20 pounds a lot of times. The size of the fish goes up, in my opinion, 1 pound to 2 per fish when you go to the black with the blue tinsel. So it's a commitment when you do that. When you're fishing a big dark jig like this, you're simply not going to get a lot of bites. Now, if the fish are just on and you found an area that hasn't got a lot of pressure and they haven't seen the bait a long time, yeah, you can get lots of bites on it. But most of the time, the tournaments that I've won and won tons of money on this jig here, if I go out there and get 5 to 8 bites a day, all day long on the jig, I consider that a really good day, because if I get those 5 to 8 bites, I know that I'm gonna be in the top 10 in the tournament if I get those fish to hit it. So prime example is, I fished a lot of tournaments, flipping this jig down at Grand Lake in Oklahoma, and I can go through a stretch of docks or willows or laydowns, something like that, with like a black tube or a black creature bait and get bites fairly consistently. And I put the black jig on there, my bites go down to like maybe 1 every 2 to 3 hours. But sometimes I don't even have to catch a limit. Sometimes I'll catch 3 or 4 fish that weigh a lot more than my 5 fish would on a soft plastic lure. So most of the time with this, guys, I found out that the 3/8 ounce, if I can get them to bite a 3, or if I can efficiently fish a 3/8, I like to go with the 3/8. If the cover's heavier, if it's windier, I'll go to 5/8, but the 3/8 has produced the best number of big ones for me. Another thing about this jig setup is you need to use 25-pound test on it. I use 25-pound test Seaguar Vizex line. There's something about the way that this jig falls on 25-pound test line that the big fish just like. And you have got to think in terms of what generates big fish to hit if you want to do good in tournaments. So this is the combination that I've came up with. Heavy line, big trailer, dark color, 3/8 ounce, fishing it around the heaviest cover that I can find. And if I can get that bite going, I'm going to cash a good check in the tournament. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. No big secret. I just wanted to identify it as the color specific and a little bit of detail behind it. Not if it's the first thing I look for. I always try to find a black and blue jig bite in a tournament. And if I do, I know that I'm going to have a good tournament if I can get them going on it. So hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.